tell me about the themes and things that investors should be thinking about as they enter next year, considering the macro environment.
So, the simplest way to put this is that global equity markets hate uncertainty. Now, in 2022, we've had loads of uncertainty. How high is inflation going to go? When is it going to peak? How fast is it going to come down? Where is the Fed going to stop? When, the market pricing for the Fed got to 3%, everyone thought, okay, that's surely going to be enough. Then it went to 4%, and they thought that's surely going to be enough. Then we went to 5%, everyone thought that's surely going to be enough. The good news is that the evidence suggests that when inflation starts to drop, it's actually going to drop very quickly. And the reason for that is that one of the pillars that has been keeping the US economy going through the second half of 2022 is the US consumer. The US consumer has not been as weak as people have expected. Unfortunately, the reason for that is because we're seeing record levels of credit card debt. Now, the thing to really watch out for is when the uncertainty goes away, equity markets are going to rip. Now, when I mean uncertainty, when the Fed says they are done, so inflation's on a downward trajectory, growth is probably quite weak. At some point, and it's very likely going to be next year, the Fed is going to come out one day and say, folks, we're done. Capital will flow to markets pretty rapidly. Now, the tricky part is that the market's probably going to start to rise several weeks before the Fed actually says they're done. And the reason for that is you have a lot of funds out there with huge kind of resources that are analyzing every word that every central banker says, and their resources mean they're going to get an early read typically on when the Fed is going to be done. Where IQ comes into this is we sort of have access to that world, and we're very much part of that world. So hopefully we will be a bit early in being able to put the evidence in front of the retail investor community to argue that, the evidence now says the Fed is done. And the beauty is that the machine is probably going to tell us, as it sees all the variables start to shift under the surface, that equity markets have bottomed.